You're listening to Viking Radio, coming to you from Dream Street Studios at Del Mar College.
Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Natalie Chapa. So good morning, Coastal Bend. We've got a great show. Today we have got Mr. Glenn Madden. He is with Del Mar College. He is our department chair for Allied Health. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you.
And then we have our fearless leader, Dr. Mark Escamilla, president and CEO of Del Mar College. Welcome back, Dr. Escamilla.
Glad to be back. Always glad to be back.
So before you walked in the room, Glenn was already telling on you.
That's awesome.
Glenn, go ahead and explain to our listeners.
Hey, he's a fisherman, so if he's remotely close to the truth, we'll be good.
Explain to the audience what the issue is with having a president who's so excited about fishing.
I was just retelling the idea that we've had a few meetings where the president is to be there and leading the meetings, and I'm to be there, and we find each other before the meeting, and conversation goes to fishing, and he's comparing photos, and I'm comparing photos, and I get a look from my dean, and I point at him and say, he's the boss. I can't shut him down. So we talk for a few minutes, and
that was it.
it
Just
kind of works out. Sometimes the meetings start a little late.
You get Glenn in trouble, basically, with the dean.
It's just awesome.
And I'm in trouble a lot sometimes, so it's okay.
So you're already used to it. Well, you know, one of the ideas we had was to be able to bring guests on the show who were not only, you know, part of Del Mar College, our faculty and staff, but also they could bring some fun energy. And we knew that if we were going to talk about fishing, that Dr. Escamilla was going to have to be here.
That's right.
We share the passion.
Yes, he was going to be very sad if we didn't. So let's start off a little bit with that, Glenn. What got you into fishing, the outdoors, the love for that? Where did that come from?
Well, I think with a lot of people, it goes back to Dad. I learned it from my dad. My dad loved it, and so I kind of patterned after that. I don't have that story. My dad, if I asked to go fishing as a kid, he knew how to take rods and reels out. We'll go find some shrimp. We'll throw it out when we wait, and we might catch fish. We might not. And either way, it's fine. We reel them up after a while and go do something else. And I learned pretty young as a kid, I think at Mathis State Park.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sitting at that pier, and I'm not catching anything, but I noticed there's an old man over there who is. Mm-hmm. And I scooted closer to the old man, and I was watching carefully what he was doing. And I learned over the years, every fishing pier has an old man on it who knows what he's doing.
That's right.
And if you respectfully close the distance a little bit and show them, I'm interested in figuring out what you're doing, eventually they'll call you over.
They're happy to share.
They want to show.
And say,
yeah.
hey, you're not trying to push me out of my spot. You're curious. You want to learn. So they'll, multiple times it was, okay, do you have a bait like this? No, I don't. Okay, here, take mine.
Live minnows.
And they help you tie it on, and they show you how to do it, and they get you going, and pretty soon you start catching fish. And so it ignited in me the idea, there's kind of a science to this. And if you study the clues that are out there, you get better. And so
Which fits into your background.
Yeah, and I just kind of took that science background
Yeah.
and ran with that approach, and realized, man, I can feed a lot of people with my hobby. And then probably 20 years ago, I started, I was in a car wreck, taking my son to, I think, kindergarten, and a policeman rear-ended us in traffic, just an accident, and I tore up my neck, and they had to fuse 3 levels in my neck, and I learned pretty quickly, I don't sleep well anymore. I'm losing a lot of weight. I'm not happy. I told my wife at some point, if the pain doesn't go away or get better, you may have to drag me out behind the bushes and just shoot me. And she kind of laughed, and I said, no, I'm not joking.
It was rough.
I can't do this. And somebody suggested, get a kayak and paddle. And I got a kayak and started paddling, and I started sleeping. And the more I paddled, the better I slept. And now, on a good year, I'll paddle 1,000 miles in a year. And if you're on the water paddling, you might as well bring some fishing gear and make the most of it. So I tend to do that a lot. I started I had an interest in fishing offshore, and I started taking my kayak offshore. And some people thought I was nuts. And
I still do.
I was
we
going to
would-
say that. Yeah, I'm
we'd
going
compare
to
notes,
side
and
with,
I'd say,
with
well,
Dr.
this is
E on
what I
this one.
did, and I caught this, and I caught one that was this big, and they're like, you did not. I said, yeah, I did.
I've seen
Why
it.
would I lie? And they're like, you got to get a camera. So I got a little cheap video camera, Kodak Playmate, Playtime, something like this. It's like $40 little video camera, and you stick it on a stick, and away we go. And my approach was, number one, prove to my friends I'm catching what I told you I'm catching. But also, there's a lot of ways to get hurt out there if you do things in a less thoughtful way. And my primary thought about sharing was, I want to show you how to do this so you don't get hurt. There's no reason to get hurt out here. There's an easy way to do it safe. It hasn't occurred to a lot of people who are out here trying this. So let me share that. And I started getting a following on YouTube. And one day a friend of mine asked me, hey, why don't you get one of these newer kayaks, or why aren't you on a sponsored team? And I said, well, the only kayaks I'm aware of that do what I want to do are made by Ocean Kayak. This is a long time ago. I said, and they have a full team. They don't need anybody. And it was on a typed forum. And I mentioned on there, I said, but if anyone happens to see this discussion and has a kayak company and you want somebody to try out your kayaks, let me know. And it wasn't 20 minutes. I got
a
a
response.
message from a man who created his own unique kayaks in California who said, I want to send you a boat. And I said, okay, but I'm not a used car salesman. If it doesn't work for me, I'm going to send the boat back. No hard feelings. And it worked. So for several years, I promoted his kayak brand. And
Is this where Professor Salt was born?
yeah, the forums dealing with kayak fishing, nicknames are a big thing. They don't call people by their real names. They call them by their nicknames. So, General Scrutinizer, Professor Salt, everybody has a nickname.
So that one's yours.
I picked it because when I got into that point, I had just made assistant professor. And I thought, I'm a
Perfect.
professor now, sort of. So, and I'm always in the salt.
So I see now the hermano connection here with the fishing, because we know, Dr. Escamilla, you're big on fishing, family fishing.
Yeah. You talked about a couple of things, Glenn, and that is mentoring and sharing of the fare that you bring home, because you're also a hunter.
Yes.
And I watch you very closely, and I am too. And I was lucky that I had both a dad that loved the outdoors, but had such little time to do it.
Right.
But when we did, we had a blast, and he ingrained it in me since I was a baby. I say a little bitty boy anyway. And then also my passion for sharing what I catch with neighbors and certainly family. And I've got a big family, and so there's never a shortage of family members that are looking to, have their own little fish fries and/or come over to our house and have a big cookout of sorts and stuff. So I really, really appreciate those 2 points that you just made. And when you talked about the gentleman on probably a little bit older gentleman on the pier, I have my other mentors that Mr. Homero Rubio, who I used to go fishing with forever. I have him on a family electronic photograph, actually, and friends were asking, they're saying, "Who's this guy? He's not a fan." I said, "He's my mentor of fishing," and I used to jump in with him. He would tell me in his old smoky little voice, "You better be at my house at 5:30, boy. I'm leaving you." "Okay, I'm there." I'll jump in the back of his truck with his grandsons, and so we have those. And so sharing that is my absolute joy. I'm blessed now with certainly my wife and my 2 boys all fish. We all go out, and my son Benjamin has his captain's
Now,
license.
yeah, he's making a business now
He
out of it.
does. He's just finished school, and that's his side hustle. He's gainfully employed as a newly minted accounting major, and so he's doing that with the local business, working over at UN Construction these days. And so, but his side hustle, he's out there doing that. My younger one, absolutely passionate about hunting and fishing as well. So we start there, and we brought him up young. And I tell everybody they have webbed feet. because
They do. Those boys definitely have web feet for
you
sure.
know, they're absolutely obsessed with it, and all their little buddies are. And what I really, really like doing with them is bringing kids who, like me, didn't have a boat and or options like we have. And so I love taking the kids out that have not been out, but that, you know, that have some knowledge of safety and fishing and that kind of thing. Because I always tell them there's 3 things. You're going to come with Mark. I said, you're going to be safe.
Safe.
You're going to pitch in, pull your weight, and you're going to have fun. That's all. Do those 3 things in that order, and you will come back again.
I'm just realizing that you probably have a nickname. Do you have a nickname out there on forums?
No, not in any forums. I got nicknames at home that I will not discuss, if that's okay with you. No, but I don't, like Dr. Salt. No, there's very few forums anymore. I do good to just get back from the fishing trips and clean up and just get ready for the next one.
So, Glenn, I think we've got some work to do here. I think Mark Escamilla needs his own name, his own fishy name.
Oh, y'all assign it and I'll wear it. That's fine.
And you know, he brings up hunting. That's what I got from my dad. Hunting and a love for being outdoors.
You raise bees, you hunt rocks. Yeah. You appreciate all those things are like way, way cool. So it's when we say outdoors, he could be studying plants, trees.
It's the whole experience.
It's the whole experience. I follow that with you on your social media.
And my son has got that 100%. He went to the military, went to the Marine Corps for 4 years and came back. And we're at our family property out north of Sinton. And we're walking through, and he says, I wonder if this is nightshade. And he pulls berries off and eats them.
Didn't check first?
And I said, don't eat more than 1 or 2, because if you fall over, you're heavy. I got to carry you back. And he says, no, you can tell. This is not the poisonous version.
He knows.
I was like, it is a nightshade plant. And he said, so is tomato. I said, well, good point. They're not all poisonous. And it... Stupid dad. I tasted them, and they taste much like tomato.
So do you have conversations with Cody Gregg about rocks?
Yes.
Okay. Gene Gregg. Yes.
He's a tumbler, I hear.
He's a tumbler. Yes, because I was in Alpine in the Davis Mountains, and
It's a good rock area.
And I'm looking for rocks. I'm like, Cody Gregg, thanks a lot. There I am trying to get down this mountain. It was probably more of a hill, but I'm going to go with mountain. And I was looking for rocks because of Cody.
Well, I'm always split. You know, my father-in-law and I were hunting west of Del Rio in Seminole Canyon. And it's all white chalk bluffs, a lot of white rock. And so we're taking turns. He's stalking and watching for game, and I'm following. And then later we take turns, and I'm the one leading the way. So if I'm not leading the way, I'm watching the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a black rock that did not belong. It had impact marks on one side where it had fallen. And I thought, there's nobody out here to chuck rocks that high. I think this is a meteorite. And it's magnetic. It has all the right signals. You can't scratch it. And I'm like, interesting. Stuck that in my pocket. And the Parks and Wildlife people had said, you can't pick up any native artifacts.
That's not a native
artifact.
Well, technically.
From God. That's from the native.
From somewhere.
Yeah, from somewhere else. So I took that home, had it looked at by a friend who's a geologist, who said, that's one of the more unusual types of meteorite. Don't give that away. I said, no, that goes on a shelf at home where I have
cool.
a lot of my other goodies I've found.
Yeah.
Out in West Texas, I found a mountain lion trap from I don't know how many years ago.
Wow.
That it's an area you can't trap in that area, but somebody had a long time before. And so it's a trap that's 2.5 feet across, big teeth on it. It's like a grizzly bear mountain lion trap. And I don't know. I always have that going on. I'm searching. I'm
always looking.
What's there that would be interesting.
We'll be right back.
This is where you want to be, to dream, to grow, to graduate and succeed. This is Oso Creek Campus at Del Mar College, home to core classes and signature programs with cutting-edge labs and state-of-the-art facilities. This is a place of innovation, transformation, and support. This is your time, your future. This is where you belong. Learn more at dmcdreams.com.
This is Viking Radio.
We're joined here. We've got Glenn Madden with Del Mar College and Dr. Mark Escamilla, president here at Del Mar College. And we're just having a great chit chat today about our love for fishing and our passion for the outdoors. Again, thank you so much for being here, Glenn.
Sure.
And so you were talking about redfish, which is, I think people in this area would appreciate knowing and understanding a little bit more about that. You know, you can't talk fishing without a good fishing story. So I don't know when was the last time you two had a chance to catch up where he got you in trouble. But has there been any good fishing lately?
There's always good fishing, in my opinion.
Yeah, the last few years, I've kind of gone back from fishing mostly offshore to mostly fishing in the shallows because we get limited times we can go offshore in a kayak.
Very limited, yeah.
So I can go find redfish almost all the time. And I love redfish because I understand them and they do some things that make it fun for me. So I've got a few times a year that I specifically will stop what I'm doing and go after trout because I know the conditions are right. I can find some big trout.
Mm-hmm.
December, January, I caught 7 trout that were 26 to 29 and a half inches, which he knows. That's impressive.
It's
That's
impressive.
big fish. But redfish are kind of ubiquitous with South Texas. They're everywhere in all the bay systems, and they do some things that I really enjoy. So I skip the redfish that are in deeper water. I know where they are.
Okay.
I could stop and catch them. They're not that fun to me. I want to go where the redfish are up so shallow, their back sticks out of the water, the tail sticks out of the water. I can see them. And so that, to me, it's a blend of fishing and hunting together.
Absolutely.
So you see one sometimes from several hundred yards, and you stalk, and you think about your
You're literally
approach, and
watching.
you get ahead of
Yeah.
him, and you let him come right into your lap. You're well inside of his danger zone, and he should know better, but he doesn't. And you put a fly or a bait right in front of him, and he's excited to eat it, and it's fun. It's just
And Glenn, you said something that I've taken up lately almost exclusively, and that's you said put a fly in front of him.
Mhm.
And that's virtually all I'm doing anymore. And I purposely keep the fly rod in my hand, whether I'm doing well or not, if nothing else for practice, for placement and all those kind of strategy and everything else, because it's much more difficult. It's like going to archery from the rifle.
Yep.
And so forth. I noticed, your posts and past discussions and so forth, that you utilize it readily. What size rod do you use, and when did you start fly fishing?
So I think probably the most common size fly rod or fly outfit to use for redfish and in the bays is probably an 8-weight.
Yep.
I don't own anything that big. I have a 6-weight for my heavy duty stuff. I have a 4-weight that's my favorite. I have a couple of them. And then I have a 2-weight that most people think, oh, okay, nothing bigger than perch, right? You can catch oversized redfish on a 2-weight.
That's extremely small for everybody. Just for everybody's information, I fish with an 8 and a 9 weight. And I do have a 6-weight that I also fish with.
But I promise you catch a legal size redfish on a 2-weight fly rod, you will smile. You will smile a lot.
Yeah. In fact, I'm about to upgrade because I've had these rods for a long time. But anyway, but getting out there, do you tie your own presentational baits?
I kind of have the approach of I don't like the easy way. I want to find what's the most rewarding way to do something. So with hunting, I haven't shot a deer with a rifle in years. I use a bow and
Are
arrow.
you a bow hunter?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had a longbow custom built for me that I've taken a deer with a longbow, and that's really hard because there's no aiming, there's no fancy toys. You use the force. You look where you want the arrow to go, and you release it, and through a lot of practice, you can get the arrow to go where you're looking. But there is no technology to it. It's literally the Native American style of hunting, and 45 feet, 15 yards is a long shot for that type of bow.
Wow,
So
yeah.
you have to have a deer in your lap to make that work, and that's half the fun to me.
Yeah, getting close enough and so forth.
So with the redfish, spot and stalk from a kayak under my own power. It's fun because that's the hardest way I can think of to catch a redfish. And if the wind is a little down, take the fly rod and do it with that. That's even a little harder.
Also, Glenn, sharing, bringing up next generations and or, just people that are the same age and so forth who are always looking for opportunities is something that I keep an eye out for.
Mm-hmm.
And getting to those very exclusive backwater locations that you and I are talking about probably more times than not is not always available. And again, I remember all the little local spots. There are so many nooks and crannies around, around South Texas and especially around the Corpus Christi, the bodies of water, whether it's the lagoon, the Nueces Bay, also known as Back Bay, and the Back Bay part of Nueces Bay. I know you fish a lot you fish back there. Copano, Rockport, Aransas, all of these places have so many nooks and crannies that I watch for, and I hope that the whoever owns it, whether it's city, county, state, and or privately owned, I watch for people having access to that because, I remember the days when Mom and Dad used to leave me off over at the train trestle over at the end of Holly, and I'd be over there all morning long, or I'd spend a night at the old Oso Pier,
Mm-hmm.
which is the last bridge to the NAS from right in front of the university.
Yep.
Or I'd spend the night at Bob Hall Pier, or after finals at Del Mar College, I'd go camp out down at Big Show. Those access points that I'm talking about are very important for folks to just be able to, get a bag of shrimp, throw some drinks in a cooler, bring their little barbecue pits and go have a swell time at a very affordable, with a very affordable rate and so forth.
Yeah, it's available for everybody.
It is. I think that's really, really important. And I think we need to, as kind of those who've kind of grown up through those, that we watch out for other folks to make sure that they still have opportunity, that we still have those opportunities should we choose.
And I've made a conscious effort to try to work that line because
Mm-hmm.
I know bow hunting, most people are not that hardcore. They don't want to put that kind of effort into it, but they should learn to enjoy basic hunting or the outdoors and learn the love for what's there. For fishing, I try and work that balance because, taking a kayak and working the shorelines for redfish, you're going to have to paddle a few miles to get to where that happens. And so I know I can't just take somebody off the street and say, look, let me show you how to do this. They're not.
You've done that.
I have, and they're exhausted before we get started.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
just
that's
get it out there.
dangerous too.
So,
Yeah.
and it's not a good approach. So what I've tried to do instead is I try to educate people and look for forums. And in a month, I'm going to Houston to a kayaking and paddling group for the 5th or 6th year to talk to them. They have monthly meetings that are very organized. They bring people in from all over the country to talk about things that are interesting to them. So I talk to them about different approaches that I'm using that are really working so that they can put it into their life. I'm sponsored by Roy's Bait and Tackle. I'm on their little fishing team. And they asked me, they said, hey, you're a professor, you know how to write. Can you write for the little local magazine and show people how
Perfect.
you're catching fish?
That's-
And I do
that's an
that.
awesome
And
thing. I read that.
I don't want to talk about specifics of where I'm going. Number one, I don't want a bunch of people there. But number two, people aren't able to go to those spots for
That's
the
what I'm
most
saying.
part.
Yeah.
So I look at what are the things that set that part or that area apart and make it worth fishing. Go find your own version of that where it's
Right.
easier to find.
If you don't have a kayak, if you don't have access to a kayak or a boat,
Right.
it's okay.
So
Yeah.
what
Right, there
attracts
is
the
gonna be
fish
a
to
way.
a specific type of environment, and where will they be when the tide's going out? Where will they move when the tide's coming in? They shift around. And why do you keep throwing that one ugly bait instead of the pretty stuff that they sell at the store that everyone else likes?
So if people want to follow you out there, like, hey, we want to We want to see Professor Salt and see what he's up to. What social media platforms are you on?
I still do a lot of Facebook. I guess that kind of dates me now because people are getting away from Facebook some, but I do a lot of that, and I'm on as Glenn Madden. I also have a page that's Professor Salt Outdoors. On YouTube, it's Glenn Madden. It used to be Professor Salt, but they made me give up the nickname and just go with my name. And then Corpus Fishing, there's a forum called Texas Kayak Fishermen that is still around. And then statewide, Too Cool Fishing, just the number 2 and Cool Fishing, are forums, discussion boards. And so I hop on there and give a lot of reports and discuss things with folks. And then I try and reach out and work with like injured vets.
Exactly. Yep.
That PTSD, being on the water is a calming effect and is kind of a zen zone for some of those guys.
Absolutely.
I learned pretty early, I have to be selective about who I pair myself up with as far as those soldiers, because some of them I don't connect well with, and they're frustrated and they're hot-tempered, and it's like, I'm not doing this guy any good. So I started working with other friends that I know who are vets who can pair me up with people that kind of match my mentality. And so I've done that, and those are some fantastic relationships, and it works for them. Even if we don't catch fish, it's okay. We're outdoors. It's relaxing. It's nice. I took one of the guys into the back of the Nueces, and we ran into a dolphin that was really stranded.
Oh.
Had been stuck for 24 hours, shriveled and dried up. I thought it was dead. And we paddled up to it, and I splashed water on it, and it came back to life. And I thought, oh, good, he's alive. We got to get him out of here. So I spent the next 2 hours dragging this silly 11-foot long big dolphin back towards the deeper water. And my buddy was like, with my injuries, my balance is terrible. And I said, that's okay. Hold on to my kayak. I'll turn on the video camera. We'll document what we're doing, just so I don't get in too much trouble with this. And we were able to rescue it and get it out of there. And he still talks about that with his girls.
That's amazing
About
to be able
what a
to
cool
do that.
story it
That's
was.
an
And
absolutely cool story.
I was told by the authorities right afterwards when I called them to ask forgiveness. And they said, yeah, number one, you're not allowed to touch those.
Right.
Number two, do not show that video. It's one of the cooler videos I've ever made, and I can't show it to anybody.
Sure. So again, if you're out there and you come across, a dolphin or another sea life, another sea animal, call the Parks and Wildlife.
Yeah.
So that you don't get in
And
trouble.
if you ever
like
find
Professor.
a big stuck turtle, don't touch them. Call
Don't
the
touch
authorities.
the turtle.
Injured birds.
I'm not going
Yes.
to admit to having handled any of those, but
Injured
Well,
birds.
when I find a buddy in need in nature, I'm going to do what I can to help them out.
Well, the ultimate teacher. So personally, professionally, we really appreciate that. So thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Mr. Madden, Mr. Glenn Madden, for joining us on the show with our president and CEO, Dr. Mark Escamilla. We
Thanks,
hope
Glenn.
everybody got some great tidbits on fishing out in the community with Professor Salt.
My pleasure.
Y'all have a great weekend and happy fishing.
Thank you.
This is Viking Radio. This show is a production of Del Mar College.